Over to you, Mr. Mbodi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can I just confirm if you are able to see my screen?
We're able to see your screen, but I'm not sure about if the presentation is the correct one for today's meeting.
Sorry for that, Chairperson. I have put in the one that says CPD at the front page, just to confirm that is what is on the screen.
On my side, I see FWA Tribunal Consultative Workshop. I don't know about others.
That's what we can see, Mr. Mbodi.
I think there is a little bit of a delayed
or uploading of the presentation.
Uploading. I've just re-uploaded now. Can I just get a confirmation that that is the correct one?
Not yet, Mr. Mbodi.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly stop sharing and reshare again so that I can speed up this process. Chair, one last attempt before I restart my my computer. Are you able to see the screen now with the CPD program?
Yes, Mr. Mbodi, I confirm we're able to see the screen.
Thank you very much for that, and apologies for the slight inconvenience. Welcome everyone. My name is Mbodi. I am, as introduced, working with the Hpcsa. I'll be the one facilitating the first session of the presentation today. The one that we are starting with is the one regarding the CPD program. Well, I thought it will be important just to lay a high-level background about the CPD program that is being run by the Hpcsa. Well, we will talk about the legislative framework, really the anchor, the legal authority that makes the CPD program to be valid. What are the requirements, the audits and the non-compliance, as well as the CPD changes, because we believe that each and every one of us who are here in the meeting registered with the Hpcsa are interested to know as to what changes and enhancements are being made on the CPD program. Chair, the CPD program really is anchored on the primary legislation that is the one that found the Health Professions Council of South Africa, which is the Health Professions Act 56 of 1974. That is the program in terms of Section 26 that is regulated. Whatever we do, the extent of the professional board's requirements for its practitioners' CPD involvement, the nature of CPD and the extent at which the CPD program can be engaged is all regulated in there, as well as for those that are non-compliant, the penalties for non-compliance management are supposed to be managed and instituted against what is there on Section 2016. Chairperson, there's also a secondary piece of legislation called the CPD rules. These are the rules that really lay a foundation of how we must proceed with the CPD program, and the guidelines for the practitioners as well as the accreditors are the ones that gives a detailed implementation of how the act and the rules should unfold. Chair, I will be touching a bit about the guidelines later on in the session. What do they look like? How the guidelines are evolving as the process are enhanced. Chair, this is what I was just saying here. I just want to emphasize that over and above the conditions, nature and extent, criteria, as well as non-compliance management, the act itself, which is the founding act of the Hpcsa, says that compliance with CPD conditions relating to CPD program is a prerequisite for continued registration. It means that in the strictest sense, if somebody is not complying with the DNB board CPD requirements, they are not supposed to continue their annual renewal of registration. This is what the Act says. However, because the CPD program is continually being implemented in the incremental format, as the phasing off of the random auditing, or what we used to refer to as a random sampling of practitioners for CPD compliance. You'll recall that previously, not everyone was required to present evidence of compliance on an ongoing basis. So as and when the Hpcsa notified the person based on the sampling that will have been done from the DNB database, then that person will now be presenting, but that has been phased off. And as the phasing off continues into the new dispensation, then the prerequisite for continued registration as a result of compliance will now be very soon strictly be enforced. Just wanted to emphasize that point because that is very important. That re-registration on an annual basis, sooner or later, will be dependent on whether somebody is compliant with the CPD requirements. Chair, I a little bit went ahead of myself there in the discussion, but I thought it was necessary to emphasize just to start at the basics. Anything that the practitioner embark on in order to enhance their skill, knowledge, and experience, whether it is in a formal or informal way, as they work and as they train, over and above what made them to be registered with the Hpcsa we are defining at CPD. All we need is that as and when the practitioners engage, then they must track and be able to present those evidence that their skills, knowledge, and experience is being enhanced and continually being provided to the practitioners. When the practitioner engage, we want that value that is attached to a learning as per the CPD guidelines to be recorded and be presented to the Hpcsa. That is what we are referring to as the CEUs. So for each CPD training attendance, then there will be a value of the CEU that will be presented, and that value will be referred to as CEU attached. So today, the value is 2 CEUs, which is given per hour according to the CPD requirements or the guidelines. It means that 2 CEUs are the ones that are going to be allocated for each and everyone who has attended here. Why do we do CPD? Well, CPD is essentially a two-sided coin. For the practitioners, when they engage, they're improving themselves. That knowledge that practitioner gain, skills and experience as a result of CPD engagement is not only for themselves and to brag about or to show off the multi-certificates that they acquire, but at the end, it helps to improve the services that they bring or they offer to the patients or the user, as some will call it, a client. And as the patient receives the improved knowledge, skills, and performance from the practitioner, then the overall health system outcomes gets to be enhanced and improved. That is the main purpose of CPD. Other than yourself improving yourself, patients receiving the best care that you can give because you are knowledgeable enough to provide that care, the health system outcomes does not get left out. It gets to receive the best from you. So because it is your responsibility as a registered practitioner to update this knowledge on a continuous basis over and above what you know as an initial training. The skills at the end, we will require from the Hpcsa that you present them. I've already indicated that the dispensation of random sampling, interval provision of those evidence to the Hpcsa has gone by. Now, each and every person amongst us is required that on an ongoing basis must be compliant at all times. The compliance information, of course, although it is a 12-month cycle that has been defined in the guidelines, the Hpcsa has been generous enough to allow that at least even those that are as old as not more than 24 months, they are still considered active. They can be acceptable for you to to be regarded as being a non-compliant practitioner on the database. This is just a provision that has been made to transition from the old dispensation of random sampling to the new active engagement and continuous active management of the practitioners. Soon, now or later, these provisions of allowing people to bring us certificates or any evidence as old as 24 months will no longer apply. But for now, it is still applicable because the board of DNB is generous enough to allow everyone to present everything. Well, there are different levels of CPD engagements, level 1, 2, and level 3. For now, I think the emphasis should be on level 1 and 2. Level 1 is those type of activities that you attend and you get allocated CEUs based on the time that you are attending. For example, today we have got a maximum of 2 hours allocated. That is why 2 CEUs are afforded, which means 1 hour equals to 1 CEUs. Depending on the type of activity you are engaging, there can be more or less, but level 1 really moves along the element of duration or time. Well, such as the breakfast meetings or presentations. When you attend some presentations like today, we are talking about CPD, and the next we are talking about telehealth, you'll just get to be afforded. There's a very little or no participation sometimes from those that are on the receiving end of the message. But people always say that CPD is a very expensive program. And from the Hpcsa point of view, it is not the intention at all. In fact, we do our best to make sure that it does not become an expense. For example, if you as practitioners in the particular health facility or a hospital, you have your own interdepartmental discussions that you formally arrange. You can get those accredited as level 1 activity. And if it's done daily, it means that within for an hour, within a week, you will have 5 already. That is so easy to discuss things that are relevant for you professionally in that particular setting. Or you can discuss case study. Also, it can be accredited. Or if there is a special purpose training for a very defined topic that relates to your work, or you are doing a ward rounds if you conduct such, that is one of the level 1 activities that can be recognized. Or if, for example, you do peer review or you supervise one another or a student, do not get that to be non-recognized. Please liaise with the relevant practitioners so that they can direct you to those that are able to accredit that kind of activity. If you attend a conference, symposium, refresher course, or any type of a course, always remember that CPD must be provided there, and then in that case, you will be able to easily acquire non-monetary CPD engagements at the same time, enhancing your skills, knowledge, as well as the patient outcomes overall. This is just a copy from the CPD guidelines to indicate other activities that are acceptable for CPD engagements. For example, if we are interested in the academia and you write papers and you do posters at the Congress and so forth, do not forget to claim your 5 CEUs. The only thing is that before the activity occurs, you must be able to get that activity accredited. If it is the activity that is being conducted by yourself, then for level 1, you can still submit to us. We will make sure that we recognize, because of course, that cannot be done before. For example, if you are writing a paper, or you are writing a chapter of a book and so forth, after the fact, and you send it to us, we make sure that we get it. You can get as much as 10 CEUs for a single activity. Some activity really, they are more intense than others, but a maximum of 15, for example, if you are reviewing the publication or a chapter of a book or some form of a publication or an article. But I'm not going to go through all of them. I just wanted the audience to realize that there is so much more avenues that are available for a free allocations of CPD CEU points for themselves. Well, the second level of CPD engagements is those that comprises of structured learning, like a formal program that is accredited by institutions of higher learning, and it is evaluated by an assessor with a measurable outcomes. As long as that program that is being offered is recognized by the DNB Professional Board, then do not forget to come to the Hpcsa afterwards at the end of the year. If there is some form of an assessment that you get, present those assessments with the registration letter to us. We will give you as much as 30 CEUs, which is a quota for the whole year. If you are doing some certificates, that takes a year or more, or if you are doing some postgraduate studies without those progress reports, then you can just get some reports from your supervisor to indicate how far or extent of your engagement, as long as you have not exceeded the maximum time that is allowed for you to study that program. CEUs can be acquired on a maximum of 30 each year, which is a good thing. Or you don't have to be studying all the time. If you are not interested, you can just attend a short course that can sometimes offer you a minimum of 25 if there is some hands-on training that will be assessed at the end of the attendance. Not everything though qualifies for CPD or CEU allocations, because the guidelines indicate that some of the activities are part of ongoing engagements, but they are not recognized for CPD in the current CPD format. For example, a letter that is not referenced to editor of a journal that is accredited, written assignments, you just write those assignments for yourself for the purpose of studying. You cannot go in and acquire the CEU for that purpose. Tours, if you are viewing exhibitions or technological demonstrations, still does not allow you. And for example, if you are doing a presentation or a publication to the public, not to the fellow registered DNB professionals, then that is an example of those activities that does not qualify you to earn CEUs. Otherwise, a more comprehensive list can be obtained from the guidelines that are available on our website of the Hpcsa. The Hpcsa DNB Professional Board has decided that instead of managing the CPD program itself, it will delegate the functions to the entities that is referred to as the accreditors. These accreditors are the ones now that will be doing the management, supply chain management of the CPD program. These are the type of entities such as the hospitals, departments, the associations, or the institutions of higher learning. They apply to the DNB board, they get approval, and they will manage the process going forward. So instead of you coming directly, if you want to facilitate or get your CPD program accredited to the Hpcsa, you can just easily liaise with them, and then they will make sure that your activity is accredited according to what the CPD programs requirements are. Monitoring, revisions of allocations, and just generally ensuring that there is a compliance with the CPD regulations and guidelines is what they do, these entities. But most importantly, they make sure that the process is standardized. Remember, CPD is not only for the DNB Professional Board. It just cut across the entire 140 professions registrable under the Health Professions Act. Therefore, there need to be some sort of standardization. Although there is specific items that can be applicable to the DNB, but overall concept of CPD is applicable and standard across. They are given an approval for the purpose of management of CPD at the very first year of office for the new professional board. They get to be approved and they last for the entire board's term, which is 5 years. Well, we have already spoken about the changes of the CPD program. For example, the random sampling of CPD on the database is no longer the case. So I've already said this, I think twice already, that each and every one of us who's registered is now expected to remain compliant at all times. The other important change that we really like here at the Hpcsa is that if you attend a CPD activity like today's, you don't even have to do anything else except the expectations that you will be notified that you have attended. That's all. Within 5 days of having attended, the one who has facilitated the session today, it will be the Hpcsa, will make sure that your status for CPD is updated to reflect your attendance today. All you can do is just to go on the online services, see what kind of additions would be put there, and then as the additions are there, you will just have to confirm that indeed your attendance today is there, which means that there's no need for certificates anymore. So that was just a laborious process, because practitioners will attend an activity, they will be given a certificate which is uploaded somewhere, and they will go to the Hpcsa, send it via post, email, or upload it on the portal, which was a little bit unnecessary. So we have short-circuited the process. All you do is just to avail yourself. Like today, when they download the attendance register here, everybody who is here will make sure that their certificates are attended here. I want to quickly, with your permission, Chairperson, go to the CPD portal just to show those who may not be aware of how it looks like, just an overview. Chairperson, I request your permission to do that. Karabo, am I still on the line?
Yes, Mr. Mbodi, you're still on the line.
Chairperson, I'm sorry to barge into your platform, but I just want to quickly show the practitioners how that pattern looks like. Well, this is what the Hpcsa main web page looks like. If you want to know about the DNB board, this is where you look. If you want to know about things relating to the legal, regulatory affairs, corporations, you go there. But today, I just want to show you quickly about CPD and the portal. I will not take more than 2-3 minutes to demonstrate this. You go to online services on the left side.
Sorry to interrupt you through you, Chairperson. We are not able to see the screen you are sharing. I think you just need to close the presentation screen and reshare.
Okay, it's just belated a bit, but I'm resharing again. Can I just get a confirmation that now it is there?
It's there, Mr. Body. Proceed.
Thank you. Sorry for that. The main web page, just go to hpcsa.co.za. You will see the main web page. And then on the left side, there is some list of items. Well, let's go to the online services. When you are on the online services, then you will see the menu of things that you can do even before logging in. So for example, if you want to lay a complaint against the practitioner, there's a complaint tab. If you suspect somebody is a bogus, it doesn't matter whether they are DNB or not, or medical practitioner or medical whatever, lay a complaint, alert the Hpcsa basically, so that they can go and visit that person. We don't want services to be rendered by those who are not registered. That's why what we are referring to as bogus. Amongst there is many other functionalities. I want us to quickly just to see the one relating to CPD. Hpcsa on the left side. I think I mistakenly just clicked back when I was canceling. You go to online services and then you go to login. At the login, I'm gonna move very quickly so that my details does not get to be seen. But I want to just say that everyone who's registered with Hpcsa have an account already created. So you don't have to create a new account. All you do is that on the username, you put in your ID and then you create your unique password. I'm gonna move very quickly here. For those that were able to see my things, it is fine. Then I'm logged in. You will see on the top right corner, there is your name that is logged in. Now, those menu that were there even before you logged in are still there as a registered practitioner. Very soon, you will be able to communicate with the board as well as the communities amongst the DNB professions. You will be able to search the database, review your annual renewal. Registration has already been there for the past 3-4 years, so you will still be able to do such kind of self-service. But when you go to online service here, and then you will find that there is a list of items that are just waiting for you. So you don't have to call Hpcsa for any of these things that are listed here, or write an email to someone. Please, we recommend that you access it here because these are already active functionalities. There are 2 items on the self-service request for CPD as well as update, but basically they are the same. You go to CPD update request, click on it, then it will tell you the registration number, whether you are compliant or not. Well, I says I'm not compliant, therefore I'm gonna have to proceed and see why am I not compliant. Then you click link. If you are compliant, you'll still see there. And the number of CEUs for a 2-year cycle that is required, inclusive of ethics CEUs, the points that are there, whether I'm compliant or not. If I'm compliant, then there will be a link here that will enable you to download the CPD compliance letter. You don't have to ask anyone, it will just be there for you to download. Otherwise, there will be a list of all the activities based on the most recent ones will appear on top. That's what I'm saying. For example, I attended some things and I was 39, 24 and whatever. And then Hpcsa, if it has looked at them, they would have all be verified. And now I'm not compliant. I possibly have a CPD certificate that I was given by somebody, although it is not a requirement anymore. You remember those forms that we used to post to people to say, please complete, send it to Hpcsa. This is the form online now. You don't have to do anything else except typing who facilitated. For example, today you will say Hpcsa, and then the description of the activity you attended, the accreditation number, it would have been given to you. And then the date is today. The CPD type, it can either be clinical, ethical, or both. Today it is ethical because they were being given to ethical CEUs. And if you have an attachment to prove that you have attended, for example, a CPD certificate, or if maybe, let's say you have attended the training program for a year that was recognized by DNB, you want to claim your 30C, you upload that and then you write all the details and then you submit. After submitting, we can promise you that within a day or 2, you will receive an SMS confirming that of which you have submitted is valid or not. So that's basically how you access the CPD portal. And if you want to go back after having done the CPD stuff, you can still find everything back to the menu so that you can access other services. Then if you go to home, this is the things that I just want to show you. If you go to home, then it will give you an overall picture of what you really need to do as an item. If you go there, then you can go to the invoices and other stuff, and that CPD list that I've done will be here. You see, when I'm doing the testing through various boards, then I just put in the funny days, but sometimes it gets to be rejected because I'll just be typing some stuff to demonstrate like this. Chairperson, that is basically what I wanted to demonstrate. Please allow me to toggle back to the presentation. Karabo, is the presentation back on the screen now?
Not yet, Mr. Body. I think it will come through.
I'm going to quickly go again, go out and in again, just to confirm. Okay. Is it back now?
Yes, it's visible, Mr. Body.
Thank you.
I just wanted to alert you of the time. It's 16:35 now.
I am almost done. Thank you for that. That is the changes. That is what is available on the CPD portal. And if you are not compliant, know that the CPD guidelines direct the board to do the following things. For example, if you are on independent practice registration, in fact, no one on the supervised practice category like the student or anyone below is required to comply. If you are on a ComServe, you are not required to comply. There is such a category within the DNB. If you are under a student registration, you are not required. But as long as you become a qualified practitioner, then that's when the CPD requirements kicks in. Sorry. And the category of your registration can be lawfully be downgraded by virtue of you being non-compliant. So it is quite a serious thing. Sometimes the board can say, we are instituting a specific remedial program for you to train on. Whichever board decide that can be possible. Or they can say, we are not trusting you that you are up to date with our level of training as expected and on a continuous basis, therefore write an exam or some form of assessment from the board. And then at the extreme end of penalties, they can say, we are suspending you from practicing. Believe me, it has happened in the recent memory in the Hpcsa, where in a lot of practitioners who are not compliant to CPD were suspended from practicing. So I am going to move a bit because of the time, just to tell you that CPD is a continuous thing, and as well as the administration within the Hpcsa is a continuous thing. Therefore, soon we are going to make you aware of the practitioners centric CPD model, which is like this one. Don't be very alarmed. We will give you the details of how that will be implemented. Not very, very different from what we are knowing, but this one will be more practitioner focused and standardized, as well as more directed on the learning that the practitioners want and the feedback given to the Hpcsa. Chairperson, I am finished with the first presentation. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbodi, for the presentation on CPD. It was very, very informative. I would like to hand over to my colleagues that will be handling the questions and answers. Lisbeth, over to you. Okay. There seems to be some audio challenges from Lisbeth's side, unless I'm the only one that's battling to hear Lisbeth, because I'm able to see her screen, but then the audio is not coming through.
Chairperson, sorry to barge in, but I also am not able to hear Lisbeth.
Okay, while we are experiencing some of those technical glitches from Lisbeth, what we had initially planned was for members to write the questions on the chat box. But then when we saw that the numbers, because initially more than 400 people RSVP'd, but then close to just under 140 people are online. So we will acknowledge the questions that are on the chat box. And then if ever there are questions from the floor, we can also take them, seeing that Lisbeth is having some challenges. Lisbeth, are you okay now, or are you still having challenges? Okay. We will now move over to the questions that are on the chat so that we start with them, so as to bring everybody up to speed. The first question that's on the chat, my colleagues from a professional practice, would you like me to read these questions, or are you able to read these questions and respond to them so that everybody can hear what the responses are?
Jefferson, I don't mind. I can read them out and then I will respond to them immediately along with Dr. Mandeka.
Thank you, Mr. Mbodi. You may proceed.
Thank you. Elria van der Westhuizen is asking, can we get a list of Hpcsa approved accreditors to approach for the DNB related civil activity? Dr. Karabo, do you care to respond to that question from Elria?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mbodi. Good afternoon again, colleagues. The list of the approved accreditors for the DNB board is available on the website. If you go to the website under professional practice, CPD, you'll be able to see a list of those accreditors. If you do struggle to access that list, you are also welcome to contact us and we will assist you further. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to add, the list is also provided with the contact details of those entities so that it can be easy for you to reach them. But otherwise, Dr. Malika has already accepted that if you are struggling to really get right to that list, you can just drop a quick email. She will assist. Nelima Tsipane is asking, in case where I attend a CPD webinar and it passes a week with no correspondence from the organization, and it does not reflect on my CPD portal, what should I do? Provided that I can download, should I upload manually? Dr. Malika, do you care to respond to that?
Yes, thank you for that question, Mr. Mbodi. I'll respond to Nelly. You could contact the provider of the CPD activity to follow up with what has happened. Alternatively, you can also contact us at Hpcsa and we will follow up to see whether the delay was with us or with the service provider. With the service providers that we have agreements with, we do not prefer that the practitioners come and upload the certificates themselves. And the reason why is because we get a duplicate. So when the CPD activity of the provider of the activity uploads the activity and you do the same, it will count the points as double. Now, when we fix that and delete the duplicates, it will make you it will move you from non-compliant to compliant. So the best thing to do is just to check up with us at Hpcsa or with the accredited service provider of that activity. Usually, though, we haven't experienced more than a week passing, so it is probably an isolated incident that we can assist further with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Turnaround time is the priority for us here. If there is a delay, please alert us to that delay so that we can attend to it. It happens very seldom, but it does happen. Elizabeth Swap is saying, could you also clarify about the number of CEUs required for somebody with dual registration, a dietitian and a nutritionist? It was reported that such person will have to obtain 30 and not double. However, online, I found both registration require CEU to be submitted. How and when will that be aligned? If one needs to comply only for one of the professions. In terms of Ethical Rule 27, it is indeed allowed that a person can have multi-registrations with the professional board or with the other boards or other statutory council. But the CPD requirements are determined by the profession. And if it is not the same profession, it simply means that the different professions will expect you to be continuous. This, however, has been amended to allow a cross recognition of CEUs, because it's the same person basically learning, and we can't say you learn this and you forget the other one. But as it stands, it's 30 per year and 60 for the 2 years. Remember, I explained the 2 years, 2-year cycle that we are still allowing to recognize the old certificates, not as far as more than 2 years back. So yours should be a maximum of 60 allowed for the professions that you are registered, not 120. I don't think that should be the case. If that is the case, really, please inform us so that we can just have a look at the case. Otherwise, profession requirements will remain as that. Anonymous, I like Anonymous's attendances because they always bring us nice questions. But today, Anonymous is just saying, thank you. The compliance certificate does not seem to work. The compliance certificates, you mean the downloading of compliance certificates. If there is ever a glitch of downloading certificates when you are sure you are compliant, please send a quick email to Dr. Karabo. She will attend it within a very short time, a day, if not less than that. Umbulani Ramaru is saying, I was studying for the past 2 years. What do I have to do to get CEUs? Because it's not automatically appearing on. It cannot be automatically appearing on your portal, Umbulani, because remember I said it's a level 2 activity wherein you have to give us a progress report or assessments assessments along with your registration. Download it onto the portal, which we have made to remain active so that you can be recognized. Otherwise, we are not in possession of your information, whether you are studying or not. As long as it's aligned to what DNB recognized, please, Umburani, the manner that I have just demonstrated briefly will make you to be recognized for these studies. Anonymous is greeting and then is considering the compliance score at 60 for every 2 years. If we reach a total of 30 annually, does that make health professions compliant with the requirements? Remember, this is what I've just explained, that 60 is what we are recognizing so that those with the older certificates in the transition period can be recognized. But very soon we are going to revert to strictly 30 so that we start counting it on an annual basis. Otherwise, we have to transition. We cannot just suddenly jump from what we used to do to the new portal, because there are people with certificates that were kept and they needed to be put on the system to be recognized. Otherwise, 60 will remain. And Marie DPR is saying, apart from university and other institutions, who else is mandated by the board to accredit? Well, in terms of paragraph 4 of the accreditors guidelines, those 3 entities can be accreditors, but otherwise there can be an accredited service providers, which is no longer a 5-year entity approved. It is annual. It does on an annual basis. This is like interest groups, formally constituted special interest for the professions and I think the departments within the universities. They can also apply from the accreditors to be an approver of CPD. But otherwise, there's a third tier of CPD provider and facilitator. We call them provider, like you and I. If you are registered within the DNB professions and you want to facilitate an independent CPD session, you are still allowed to apply so that you can get approval from the accreditors that are recognized by the board. So anyone basically can, at a different level based on the criteria, be acceptable to deliver a CPD. Anonymous again is saying the informative session, possibly send the link that can be used to view CPD compliance, struggling to navigate through. I think Anonymous, what I've just demonstrated, I demonstrated the logging part as well as the CPD part. But if you want just a further guidance, we don't mind at all. We suggest that you don't call, but you send an email. We will leave our contact details. They will certainly guide you tirelessly. They will not really mind helping you. Chair, there is a Punyuka's inquiry what says, what are the requirements of getting accredited when presenting to other professionals? I've just explained. This is what we are referring to as CPD providers. So Punyuka, contact your accreditors or your accredited service provider. Then they will redirect you to the right person. Mishak is saying what he or she would like to know, what do you submit if you're currently doing a postgraduate academic record or exam results? Exam results are said assessment results, but exam results is basically the same thing, along with your registration letter, submit it online, and then you will be validated within 2 days. We promise the turnaround time. Maria van der Merwe is saying, similar to the question, CPD guidelines indicate that practitioners registered in more than one professions under the same board, you only need to meet the requirement once of the profession. Maria, that is correct. The online platform does not allow this. I have logged 3 CPD inquiries online and have closed without being resolved. Please, Maria, send an email to Dr. Garabo so that you can have a look at this, and then she will certainly help you. And then Anonymous again is saying, I supervise students from institutions of higher learning. How do I claim CEUs? You are claiming based on level 1 activities. So which means you have to provide evidence that you are doing such. And then based on the table that I said I quoted from the guidelines, you will be allocated, I think, a maximum of 10. In fact, supervision of students, we are going to motivate very soon that it becomes a 16 CEUs, and we are hopeful that the right structures within council will accept that kind of change. And then Maria, lastly, He's saying, I would like to express my appreciation towards the Council and DILT for streamlining the CP submission process. It is such a pleasure to receive an email notification when your activities have been uploaded by provider. Maria is giving a positive feedback about the changes that the DNB board is making to the CPD. Chairperson, the last question from Mael Sila. Mael Sila will pardon me if I'm not reading it right. He or she is thanking us for the presentation. She is asking the presentation to be shared. You don't have to screenshot my Sila. It will be given or made available to everyone who has attended. Chairperson, I am done with the questions. I have exhausted whatever is here on the screen, and I hand back to you.
Through you, Chairperson, I think Mr. Mbodi, we skipped one question from Mr. Chiridzina. I think I saw, and there's one that just came in now. Maybe the chairperson can read those. Yes.
No problem. Through you, Chair, I have just gone back to Chiridzina. Chiridzina will pardon me. I didn't mean to intentionally skip the question, but it says that where the activity is for a health practitioner belonging to different boards, will the activity reflect in all the boards or what? Chirizi, can I ask Dr. Maleka to respond to that one?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mbodi. Chirizi, the answer to this question is it would really depend on what the audience that the provider of the CPD activity applied for when they're applying for accreditation of that activity. So if a practitioner, if the provider of the activity is applying for multiple boards, then the activity will be open to various boards. But if it's just an application to one board, then it will go to that particular board. So if you are a service provider for CPD and you would like to apply to accommodate multiple boards in the same presentation, if it's applicable, then you just state as such in your application to the accreditor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And one last question, Chairperson, from Maria is saying the accreditation for those such as supervision, postgraduate students, and so forth, is it done automatically or online or requires accreditation through the accreditation body? Dr. Malika, supervision, postgraduates, and the likes, how do they claim about their recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Mbodi. They can go onto the portal and upload their proof of registration is sufficient. And on completion, of course, they can share the certificate with us, and also with registration to add it as an additional qualification. But during the studies, we do accept proof of registration that is sufficient to get them all the CPD points that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to add that only those activities that require prior accreditation, you will need to go through the accreditor. Anything else that we have defined as recognized, you just upload on the portal, we will validate for you. Chairperson, that was the last of the questions. Thank you for the time. I hand back to you.
Thank you very much, colleagues from Professional Practice Division. And then also thank you very much to members for raising the questions that have been raised. Just want to, the last question that came was that can Dr. Karabo Maleka's email be shared? Because on a number of questions, it was referred that members need to contact Dr. Karabo Maleka. So at the end of Dr. Maleka's presentation, we will request that Dr. Karabo Maleka's email is shared with members that have attended today's session. Okay, on that note, we would now like to move to the second presentation for today, which is a topic on telehealth. It will be presented by Dr. Maleka, supported by Mr. Mbodi. Dr. Maleka, over to you. And just something quickly, while Dr. Maleka and Mr. Mbodi are going through the presentation, members are encouraged to continue to write their questions on the chat box so that at the end, the questions and session can be facilitated. Thank you very much. Over to you, colleagues from Professional Practice.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can I start with the presentation? Dr. Malika will support me if that is in order.
In order, noted, Mr. Mbodi.
Thank you. As I would like to acknowledge my co-presenter, Dr. Malika, she will jump in when there is a need, and she will also heavily assist me with all the expertise that she has when it comes to the questions. Chairperson, I just want to confirm that the new presentation titled Telehealth is visible for everyone. Can I get that confirmation?
Confirm, Mr. Mbodi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will just start with the definitions. We will introduce whatever we need to introduce of the concept of telehealth, where it's applicable, the types, and the ethical consideration, and as well as the guidelines. Chair, the DNB Professional Board deemed it very necessary that this presentation is given at the first of this type of sessions because it has changed from what used to be telemedicine, which was more inclined to other professions to be telehealth. That is now generally applicable across the professions. There are some principles that are very important to note that in the practice of telehealth. Chairperson, telehealth is an application of electronic communications, IT, as well as any other electronic means to deliver healthcare from two separate locations for the purpose of facilitating, improving, and enhancing clinical education and research, particularly here in South Africa, in the area where there is an under-servicing. Of course, we know that South Africa is not an equal country. It's divided within itself in terms of tier of healthcare provision. Some areas, they are very well resourced. Others, unfortunately, not so very well resourced. So telehealth is aimed to assist in alleviating that kind of imbalance. Whether you are doing clinical work, you are educating, or you are doing research, it is cutting across. Very, very important that this term is inclusive of all the professions. DNB also forming a central part of their practice, depending on what DNB professional practice requires. Well, we have made it very clear that telehealth is not practiced on social media. We cannot name all the social medias that are excluded from the practice of telehealth, but generally, like you cannot say, I'm dealing with telehealth on Facebook. You know, I'm doing telehealth on Twitter, WhatsApp, TikTok, or LinkedIn. That's not telehealth, that's something else. As long as it is a content social sharing platforms like YouTube, and don't call it telehealth. We conceptualize these revisions to make healthcare provisions not to be different or completely different when it is being practiced online or when it is being practiced physically. The only difference is the distance. Well, when we say health establishments, I know we are referring to both public and private healthcare practitioner, of course, as defined in terms of the National Health Act or the Health Professions Act. Well, there will be a practitioner in charge. Remember, we have moved away from the definitions that we used to use previously. Now we are talking language that is easily contextualized to the South African space. Practitioner in charge and consultant practitioner. The one in charge must be the one who is responsible for physical examination of the patient. And when the one who is in consulting will be the one giving advice if telemedicine is being practiced within this confine of two practitioners. So it doesn't matter what professions they are. Well, if it is necessary, then the patients must be triaged. It can be done whether it is live or not live. That is the synchronized, asynchronized definitions there. Well, I've already indicated that any any suitable communication except social media must be one considered for the telehealth practice. When using telehealth, because people think that telehealth, it's another world on its own of practice. Everything else that is applicable in your ordinary practice is still applicable. All good principles of DNB professionals, dietetics, and as well as nutritionists are still applicable. We have revised again patient consent guidelines. Please have a look at book 4, also pasted on the website. Look at what we mean. We have tried our level best to incorporate the matters relating to telehealth, even on the express informed consent. Confidentiality, we have revised, but not so much on that guideline, but look at the new revisions and what they say. The exemptions of the confidentiality are still applicable. Record keeping, you will very, very soon see the guideline on records keeping, health records keeping being published. So I will inform you of such, and we will redirect you to look at them, and we will also maybe in the future sessions like this come directly with the new changes on the records management. Don't forget that now you are dealing with a lot of information that is managed electronically. Requirements of PPIA, very, very important, still applicable. We want, as the Hpcsa said, that telehealth to be utilized to replicate physical consultations as far as possible. That is just the emphasis. Remember, telehealth is meant to be used as a continuation of the relationship between practitioner and patient that is already established. Although it's not a compulsory requirement that the relationship must be there. For those that are aware, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were giving a lot of guidance, but this was part of what we gave as a guidance, especially regarding the professional relationship. But now we have just concretized on the guidelines, and we want that to be known going forward in telehealth. There are many types of telehealth. The Hpcsa is not going to tell you that, yeah, use this one, don't use this platform. They are all belonging to you. You can use whichever, except that not a social media platform. But there are types. There are routine telehealth, there are emergency telehealth, and there's a specialist telehealth. Let's start with the routine one. This is when now probably the patient initiate or the practitioner initiate to get a second opinion from the other practitioner. Let's say you are a dietitian and you are dealing with this patient in your office or in your whatever workspace. And you say, yeah, this one is a little bit, and I'm not certain of what I can call whatever I'm seeing. Let me consult somebody with experience, and patient give me permission that we connect to somebody else. And then in that way, the patient will accept. Then it means that there must be some confidentiality expressed. I'm saying expressed because I don't want to say written. I'm saying expressed because it can also be a verbal recorded that can be transcribed at a later stage. But that is also used next to normal adjunct, and not only replaces the normal face-to-face engagement when care is not compromised. Specialist, well, this is now the one that particularly is used to alleviate human resource constraint in the underserviced part of the country. So this is mostly the common one, like you are seeing somebody in the remote areas there where things are very bad and you want assistance from somebody who is more experienced and they have a specialty of some sort or expertise in a particular area of practice, and you want that to be. This is common. Sometimes telehealth is used in an emergency. Of course, in an emergency situation where now things are not in the normal state. Now you use information that is very, very limited. Whatever you know, you must use. If you don't have it, you still continue. But the emergency, remember, the principle of the best interest of the patient still remains. And this is commonly used for those that are providing acute treatment, so that at least the patient does not suffer further harm or die, because the death is also part of the treatment outcome sometimes. So who is this person that must be engaging in the telehealth? First, that person must be registered. It means registered with the Hpcsa, I mean, in South Africa. It means that no one can say, I'm in America, I am a dietitian. I'm going to consult South African patients because I believe I can give them better care. They must be registered here because Hpcsa is managing the jurisdiction. Same South African person cannot just consult with somebody in Europe, as an example, or let me say other fellow African countries, because there are laws that govern that jurisdiction. That is number one. Number two, they must be competent. Well, competence, we usually equate it to registration, because everybody who is registered with Hpcsa is deemed to be competent, at least in the basic practice of the profession. Number three, if somebody at all is wanting to use telehealth across borders, first, the one who is in South Africa must be registered. The one who is in the cross-border must be verified to be registered there by the one who is here. The responsibility is on the practitioner. So patient cannot just say, now I deal with people in this jurisdiction. Otherwise, it's not recognized as the telehealth being defined here in this document. Because practitioner, either way, whether it's on the other side or in the primary contact with the patient, they are held at the same standards of practice. And they must be an independent practitioner. So as a student, you can say, now I'm dealing with telehealth now. Or as a supervised practitioner, you cannot just engage in that manner. Or of course, I've already spoken about the patient relationship, but it is easier and well accepted when there is a relationship already, because you are dealing with this person, you have established a relationship, you know what you are treating, and then a subsequent contact, then you can say, you know what, on the follow-up, call me on this, or I'll call you on this, then we treat it like that. But the practitioner must make a discretion based on whatever judgment they are making and the professional board standards, of course. Responsibility will remain. I've already spoken about records management and the importance of understanding what records should be managed. This just talks to the policy of telehealth. You cannot just practice telehealth out of the blue, which means that your own institutions must be guiding you based on these principles of how you should do it, which means there must be a policy. And we have just made very clear that a consultation fee can be charged at an ordinary rate in practicing. We just wrote this because we were engaging a lot with the medical funders who did not want to provide fees for telehealth. They didn't deem this to be normal course of consultation. We had to make sure that we write this as clear as it is, and it should not be at a different rate unless the practitioner agrees so, because we can prescribe, of course. Well, there are things that should be considered when doing the telehealth. First, the assessment and the severity of the symptoms. Don't just engage on telehealth because on a virtual space, there is increased likelihood, I'm not saying it's a certain, increased likelihood that a patient may not say things that you want to hear or to use in the consultation. Well, consider everything else. Remember, some people have got a very good family arrangements, others don't have, and they may want to not to share everything with everybody. So the social circumstance is also important for the practitioners to consider. And sometimes you will need to look in the eye or whatever you look at in terms of examination of the patient or client, and you must not overlook that when you are dealing with, and then of course medical history. Your duty as a practitioner will remain. Professional duties does not change because things are being done telephonically or on the internet, and you must verify the locations, the qualification, and the patient, or as well as the client if you are calling them that. Informed consent, we won't elaborate a lot here because I have already guided that the revisions of the document for informed consent is still applicable. There must be some sort of a quality to what we are giving in terms of telehealth. Remember I said there must be a policy. So the policy must tell you what you must get in order to make sure that your mode of delivery of this service is acceptable. For example, there must be enough data. You don't want to, when you are consulting, somehow drop the call in halfway when somebody is giving you information of medical in nature, or there must be proper bandwidth. Whether it is delivered on the private sector or in the public sector doesn't matter. There must be enough quality of mode of delivery that enables you. We are not going to prescribe and say this is much of bandwidth that needs, this is much of with that. Hpcsa does not go into such details. It gives an overall principles of training so that you can of practice so that you can do that. But of course there must be security, not security in terms of the patient, but it's security in terms of what you hold in that telehealth. Remember, what will be a physical file going around in the health facility? What will be an ordinary file, that you will going around? Now it is kept manually. So you must have all measures to make sure that the patient is confident that you have secured their data. Remember, the leak of healthcare data is of such a nature that it can be very, very problematic for the practitioner who's responsible for managing such. And access, of course, must be guaranteed. You must tell the patient on your policy or on your information or whatever consent form, you must tell the patient how the information will not be accessed by others who doesn't have business. For example, third parties may want to process the information for one reason or the other, and it must be safe. They must, on a policy, you must guarantee and provide measures of how damages and existential loss must be prevented. There is mechanism for such. It's not just I trust what Google told me. Somehow you have to retain confidentiality as well as proper management of such information. Electronic Communications Act, Personal Protection of Personal Information Act, as well as other applicable legislations, does not consider whether you are doing online or not. Practitioners must be responsible. Chairperson, that is the summary of the presentation. I can take questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mbodi, for the presentation on telehealth. We will now move over to the question and answer session. We'll go to the chat box. Over to you, Mr. Mbodi. There are questions for you. You may proceed with the same procedure that you did earlier on. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I am going to start reading the questions and allow my colleague to assist me in clarifying these things. I'm just checking. Okay, I'm gonna start with the anonymous. Is there anyone who is saying something? I cannot see, but I can hear noise. Okay, not. Is there a guideline that can be used as a reference for telehealth, and what gadgets may be used for telehealth? Dr. Malika, do you care to assist with that inquiry?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mbodi. We do have the booklet that talks about telehealth. It is available on the Hpcsa website. Thank you.
Basically, Dr. Malika is saying that the presentation is an abridged version of the guideline for telehealth that is available on the website. This is also one of the documents that was just revised. When I say just revised, I mean it was published towards the beginning of the year. Yeah. So this is what you can find as a reference for my presentation that was abridged to assist the same. Mishak Zamani Matonzi is saying, are you saying, is it wrong to give advice to another practitioner about the patient via WhatsApp? Mishak, do not misquote me. It is not wrong to give advice to another practitioner or to patient. In fact, we have got a guideline of how practitioners should utilize social media when they're dealing with their patients. What I'm saying is, if you are using social media, please do not mistake it as a telehealth practice in terms of South African legislations and policies. That's all what I'm saying. You can use any platform to talk to each other, to give each other advices, lies with each other. That is still acceptable. Okay. Can we get a list of Hpcsa approved accreditors to approach the accreditation of the DNB board? Dr. Malika, this is relating to CPD. Do you want to reiterate what you have said from earlier?
Thank you, Mr. Mbodi. Good afternoon to you, Gladys. The list of accreditors is available on the Hpcsa's website. If you go to core operations, professional practice, and it's there under CPD. If you do struggle to locate it, my email address is on the chat and I will gladly assist you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Malika. I see anonymous as I don't know if there are many anonymouses or this is just one with an inquiries, but it's saying that it is advisable to consult a lawyer in regard to drafting policy for telehealth if you're in private practice. Dr. Malika, please assist. Do we need to consult a lawyer to draft a policy for telehealth when we are in private practice?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Mr. Mbodi. You mean does the anonymous mean the practitioners while they are practicing, or are they asking if the Hpcsa's policies, if a lawyer was consulted?
I think the question is asking, they want to develop some policy regarding the telehealth practice for themselves, but they want to know, is it really necessary to seek legal assistance to drafting that policy?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, practitioners are always welcome to contact their legal advisors for advice. However, at Professional Practice Division, we do provide, it is our duty to provide support and guidance to practitioners. So if you've got something in your practice and you are not sure if it's in line with the Hpcsa's rules and guidelines, you can just send it to us and we will assist you with it. Thank you.
Thank you. We do not mind you going to the lawyers to ask this. In fact, it is not our jurisdiction to tell you what and what not to do in that regard. But what Dr. Malika is saying is that you can even present your draft policy to us. We will have a look at it and see if it is aligned. All we want is the compliance to the requirements or ethical obligations of the board, not to deviate. I don't know if there's a lawyer here, but if there is, you will pardon me. Sometimes the lawyers are too legalistic. Such a simple policy of telehealth become a very protracted conversation with us. But luckily, we have got some other lawyers within Hpcsa who talks the same language. So we are not against this, but we are also saying you can give us information, we can assist you to peruse quite a bit of contracts and policies and lawyers. Some hospitals even send them to us when they want to put together. Well, in fact, I do this type of presentations to the health entities sometimes to assist them in formulating, as well as the Department of Health. Sometimes we do talk the same language. Anonymous again is saying, while telehealth seems to depart from the intention to render services within the setting characterized by inequalities, how is the risk of unfair competition mitigated? Example, prominent practitioners from one geography to potentially expand their practice nationally based on telehealth approach. Dr. Malika, I'm sure you have extracted the question from that reading. Please assist.
Thank you so much, Anonymous, for that question. Practitioners do also have to comply with business practice policy to ensure that, when they are practicing in a manner that is fair, and also not in a manner that breaches the ethical rules of the Hpcsa when it comes to business practices. And like I mentioned previously, where you are not certain if there are such business practices where you'd like to see clarity, you may always contact the professional practice division and we will assist you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karabo. What I can add there, if I may, is that one thing I did not emphasize or read out from the presentation is that there is no one who is allowed to call themselves an exclusive telehealth practitioner. So there must be, from time to time, although it's not a legal requirement for physical contact, there must be some form of engagement between a practitioner and the patient based on the condition of the patient. So you cannot just be sitting in Pretoria, as I'm in Pretoria, and say, no, I'll open 24 practices nationwide. They will all deal with me in telehealth, because you are going to be required, based on the board's standard of practice, to engage with those patients and manage them in the manner that is ordinarily done. Gladys Tangeni, can telehealth be done across border if it is a follow-up in case where the practitioner is visiting other countries? Yes, it can be done in Tangeni, it can be done, but remember, if, for example, you are going to consult a patient in Botswana, it means that the patient is in the jurisdiction of Botswana's government, and there are rules that govern how healthcare should be practiced there. Therefore, if you are in Botswana and you consult somebody, you deal with the Botswana government. Just the opposite. If somebody is in New York, I'm saying New York because they're Americans, they call a lot the Hpcsa, they want to really explore the market in South Africa. We always advise them that, it's nice that you are registered with the Federation State Board or something like that. And you must be registered in South Africa because we are dealing with person in our jurisdiction, in our laws. So I imagine that should be the same. It can be done. In fact, there is a provision in the policy that it must be done, but with those requirements. And we also always say, if you are dealing with a cross-border, it's always better to deal with the laws as well as the practitioners that other side who are duly registered and know the standard of practice there. Because otherwise it will be chaotic in a virtual world and things can go wrong very big time. So that is basically the provisions. I think it's paragraph 9 or something, 9.3, but it is there regarding the cross-border. Chirizi again is coming, clarify the exclusion of WhatsApp from telehealth. While we know it's the most secure and encrypted channel of communication, I suspect that is based on stereotypes of being associated with me. Chirizi, again, we are not saying WhatsApp is not safe, if I can put it like that. We are not saying that Facebook is not safe. We are not stereotyping any of the social platforms. All we are saying is that telehealth in South Africa, according to the policy, must be practiced not in a social media platform. That's all we are saying. Well, Chirizi is again emphasizing that WhatsApp is cheap and safe mode. Thank you for that emphasis and advert regarding WhatsApp. Fansitert is saying WhatsApp is very closely connected with Facebook, not a good way. I don't want us to venture into a discussion of elaborating which is good, which is better when it's social media. Can I just ask Chirizi and Fansiten to focus on other things other than the discussions of what is acceptable, what is a short, what is not connected to which. I don't think that is the discussion for today. What we are giving here is the principles that is underpinning the social interaction between a patient and the practitioner based on an electronic medium. That's all we are saying. Please, colleagues, we do acknowledge that you have got an interest in one or two things. Dr. Malika, you wanted to come in and say something?
Yes, please, Mr. Mbodi, through you, Chair. I just wanted to alert you that there's also some questions in the chat room. I think there's one from Alta. I think you can just take that one. It's a simple one. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just start a big back? I think, let me start here just to check if there is nothing. May you elaborate on the rationale? Is just putting information on the both channels? Gladys is saying, can't it be done across border if it is? I think this is the same. Alta is saying, I'm not sure if I missed something. Are we still only allowed to perform telehealth after the first face-to-face consultation, or maybe consult be via telehealth? Dr. Karabo, we have assisted this inquiry or similar to this one. Do you care to reiterate what we said?
Sorry, Mr. Mbodi, I missed that one. Are you referring to Alta's question?
No, Alta Globus. I think just to maybe you did not see it. She's asking that is it mandatory according to the telehealth guidelines of the Hpcsa that the telehealth must be done after the first face-to-face consultation with their patients? Well, to assist in that, Alta, the guidelines recommend, but it's not saying it's mandatory for the consultation to have taken place. The guidelines only say it must be based on the established relationship. It is easier, although it is not mandatory. So you don't have to, you can receive a contact from somebody for a routine telehealth whom you have never met. Based on your assessment, you must know whether you are able to continue on that telehealth or not to continue. There's a high risk here, very, very high risk of over and under servicing on telehealth. Therefore, practitioners that's why we are advising them to strictly adhere to the ethical principles, because just accepting anybody to go anyhow without that establishment of relationships can potentially be problematic, but it's not prohibited. That is what I can finish this response with. Well, Chairperson, I don't see any other inquiry, point of clarity. I head back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbodi. Thank you very much, Karabo. If there are no further questions, I just have one question, Mr. Mbodi, and my question is, will today's presentation be available online post today's session?
Thank you, Chairperson. Can I ask Fezile from the Corporate Affairs if you are able to respond to that? Fezile, I am pointing you with an elbow. That's what we do when we can't answer. We point fingers and elbows. Fezile?
What we can do, Mr. Mbodi, is send the presentation via email to all the practitioners that attended today.
Thank you very much, Fezile. I think we can also explore making the recording available as it is being recorded. And that is, I don't think that will be very difficult. We will explore doing that. But other than that, presentation will be shared, the recordings will be shared, so that everybody can have reference of this issue. Issues that are discussed today, although they are not exhaustive, to a certain extent, they do help to clarify many other things. Chairperson, back to you.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up question, will there be a questionnaire attached to the two presentations in the event members would like to earn some CPD points?
Chairperson, you are putting me on the spot on these admin issues. Fezile, I am pointing again. I know when you point 1, 3 will go back to point you those fingers. Fezile, if we are to make this available on a recording, are we also going to make sure that at least some questionnaire is given for those that are going to engage this as asynchronous in an asynchronous manner. Fezile, we can do that, right?
Yes, we can. I've already engaged IT on it, Mr. Mbodi. They said they'll be able to assist us. We'll be able to provide the link once we've uploaded everything on forms. We'll put the survey link, sorry, not the survey link, the questionnaire on it, as well as the recording link on there. So they'll be able to access it.
So that is prepared. Thank you very much, Fezile. Chairperson, I hand to you again. Well, because I'm not getting any reaction, I always check. Sometimes you will find that I'm speaking on my own. I've lost connection. Is there anybody who can still hear me?
Mr. Mbodi?
I'm still here, Chair.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I wanted to say thank you very much to colleagues from Corporate Affairs and colleagues from Professional Practice Division. I would now hand over to my co-chairperson, Ms. Vanessa Mbatsani, for the closing remarks. Thank you very much. Vanessa, over to you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizing committee that made this webinar possible. That is a Corporate Affairs, our PPC members of council, as well as PPC members of the board, as well as the board, the DNB board, for making sure that this day was planned and it came to pass. And this would not have been possible if our members did not register and attend this event. I've noted one question which I think is something that we need to discuss at board level regarding the number of practitioners who did not receive our invite. It's something that I saw flagging and Lisbeth responded to. We have noted the concern, and I think we will raise it with Corporate Affairs. At the end of this, we will send out the evaluation survey where you will evaluate our first webinar ever. And this will be followed by a DNB survey. So this survey is, we have organized the first webinar, but we hope that in the future we will have a survey, these webinars happening at least by monthly, if possible. And we would like to hear from our professionals their preferred dates, times, as well as topics that we should cover, because we don't want to cover topics that are not of interest to our practitioners. So from the board and the organizing committee, would really want to appreciate everyone, especially our speakers, for making sure that we had a successful webinar. Thank you very much. Over to you, Chair.
Chairperson,
Chairperson.
are you there?
Apologies for that. If there are no further comments, I would like to extend appreciation from the DNB board to all the members that took time to attend the first online webinar. And we are looking forward to having similar sessions in the future. Our sessions will only be successful by the engagement of all the members. So we highly appreciate. And it is now 26 minutes to 6 o'clock. I officially close today's session. Thank you very much all, and have a good day further. Fezile, over to you. You want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to advise practitioners that the survey link will appear after the session on the browser, so they can just click on it and provide us with their feedback as to how was the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.